Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a source that claims to pull back the curtain on one of the world's most powerful institutions, arguing that the Vatican's public face of faith and history, well, it might just be concealing a much darker, secret agenda.
Okay, so we all think we know the Vatican, right? Breathtaking art, deep history, the center of a global faith. But the source we're digging into today says, hold on. It claims that's just the surface. Behind those ancient walls, it alleges, is a hidden world of secrets, scandal, and a kind of power you can't even imagine.
So what is this big secret? Well, at the very heart of this documentary is a pretty shocking claim that the Vatican is secretly running a decades-long plan for total global control. Let's break down exactly what that plan allegedly looks like.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll look at the Vatican's two faces, then its supposed goal of a single world religion. After that, we'll dive into the money and secrecy, decode the symbols, see how it allegedly rewrites the past, and wrap up with what the source calls the final mystery.
So, the first big claim from the source is that the Vatican is pushing for one single global religion. But here's the twist. It's not based on any faith you or I would recognize. Instead, the documentary argues it's all built on a very specific, very ancient myth.
The source calls this idea the Gnostic myth, and it goes a little something like this. Our world isn't real, it's a prison, a kind of simulation, created by a lesser evil god, and we're all just trapped here, asleep, waiting for a hero or a messenger to come and wake us up to the truth. Sound familiar? It probably should.
And that's because, according to the source, this is no accident. It argues that this exact story, a hero waking up from a false reality, is deliberately planted in some of the biggest movies out there. And the alleged goal? To psychologically prepare all of us to see our own governments, our own nations, as the prison, making it that much easier to accept when they're eventually dismantled.
Okay, but a plan that massive, that ambitious, it begs a pretty big question. How on earth do you fund something like that? And how do you keep it organized? Well, the documentary claims the Vatican has two very powerful tools for the job, an incredibly secretive bank and its powerful secret orders.
So let's get into those alleged instruments of power. First up is the financial arm, the Vatican Bank. And then there's the organizational side of things, a network of powerful and clandestine orders that are said to operate all over the world.
The source zeroes in on this number, 12%. It claims this is the unbelievably high annual interest rate the Vatican Bank pays on certain deposits. The argument is that this place functions less like a religious charity and more like the world's most powerful offshore bank, supposedly dealing only in cash and gold with absolutely no paper trail.
And this level of secrecy, the source argues, can have deadly consequences. Which brings us to the chilling story of Roberto Calvi, a man nicknamed God's Banker. As you can see, he got tangled up in Vatican finance in the 70s. By 1982, his bank was broke, and right after writing a desperate letter to the Pope, he was found dead. The source presents this as a grim warning. He simply knew too much.
Now, beyond the bank, the documentary points to secret orders like the Jesuits and Opus Dei as the Vatican's real enforcers. It claims their members don't operate as priests in robes, but as a kind of hidden network, embedded at the highest levels of finance, politics, and business all over the world.
Okay, this next part is pretty fascinating. The source makes a bold claim that the Vatican isn't even trying to hide its intentions. In fact, it's broadcasting them in plain sight, using a hidden language of symbols. You just need to know how to look.
Take a really close look at the papal audience hall. The source argues that its strange design is 100% intentional, meant to look exactly like the head of a snake. You can see the wide shape, the two side windows that look like reptilian eyes, and even the central stage that looks like fangs. According to the documentary, none of this is by accident.
But why? Why on earth would they do that? Well, according to this source, it's a kind of ritual. The belief is that by displaying their intentions openly, even if it's just symbolically, the planners are getting our subconscious permission to move forward with their agenda. It's like hiding in plain sight.
And this symbolism, according to the source, extends right down to what the Pope himself wears. It decodes several items, claiming a title on the papal tiara actually adds up to 666 in Roman numerals, and that the bent crucifix staff isn't a Christian symbol at all, but something much, much older and more sinister.
And for a final, kind of jaw-dropping detail in this section, the source points to the Vatican's high-tech Advanced Telescope out in Arizona.
And the name they officially gave this device, which looks up at the heavens? Lucifer.
The documentary then argues that if you want to control the future, you first have to control the past, and it offers up two historical examples of how the Vatican allegedly rewrites history to protect its power and hide what it claims is the truth.
First up, the case of Pope Pius XII. Now, the official Vatican history paints him as a hero who helped save hundreds of thousands of Jews from the Nazis. But the source presents a totally different narrative, labeling him Hitler's pope and claiming that secret archives actually show he helped Hitler come to power.
Now, how could anyone control history so completely? The source claims it's possible because of the Vatican's library. But it's not just one library, it's more like a fortress of knowledge, built with impenetrable layers of secrecy. The deeper you go, the more secret it gets, with the lowest levels being completely off-limits to the outside world.
Which brings us to the famous case of Giordano Bruno. Now, the story we're all told is that he was burned at the stake for his scientific views, right? Well, the documentary claims the Vatican's own archives reveal his true crime was a belief it found far more dangerous, that the universe is filled with infinite worlds and intelligent life, and that our souls reincarnate.
So, after all of this, what does it all lead to? What's the end game? The documentary concludes by identifying what it believes is the Vatican's true, ultimate source of power.
And according to the source, it's not the gold, it's not the armies, it's not the political influence. The Vatican's ultimate power, its greatest secret, is its ability to control knowledge itself, to define what humanity is allowed to believe about its own origins and its place in the universe.
So, we've walked through this incredibly complex web of claims made by the source material. And it all boils down to this one, final, provocative question. Why would an idea, like infinite worlds, or the reincarnation of the soul, be considered so dangerous that it needs to be hidden from us? That's the mystery it leaves us to ponder. Thanks for watching.